So hello everybody, and thank you for making time to join this session where we're going to be talking about the new Level 2 Adult Social Care Certificate that is currently in the process of being launched. Just to explain a little bit about who I am. So my name is Mark Story. I'm the Head of Learning Innovation at FuturU. I'll tell you a little bit about FuturU in a moment. But I'm going to take you through the next 40 minutes or so explaining exactly what this new qualification is all about. And specifically, the things that I'm going to cover are what this qualification is and, more importantly, how it can benefit you. Also for you to get a sense of whether you'll be eligible for the funding that is available to undertake this qualification. And what you might be able to do if you're not eligible. Also to talk about FuturU's particular approach to learning and to introduce you to some of the characters that we're using in our learning module, which I hope you'll enjoy. We're also going to talk about why you should choose to undertake this qualification with us. And what it is about us that will be a better experience than anywhere else you might go. And if you are looking to engage with your employer and request from your employer that you undertake this qualification, we'll give you some hints and tips and a very useful guide as to how you might do that. So they're the things that we're going to cover. Before we cover that, also I'll just introduce you to Alex from FuturU, and Alex is going to be she's going to be monitoring the chat. So if you've got any questions, we'll have time for questions at the end, and Alex will be responding throughout, but also picking out things that we need to address afterwards as well. So thank you very much for being on mute. As I say, there'll be opportunities for questions at the end. Please use the chat to comment on anything, and Alex will pick that up as we go through. Okay, so if everybody's ready and comfortable, I'm just going to say a little bit about what FuturU is. So FuturU is an online platform focusing on health and social care. And for us, our mission is to provide universal access to free health and social care education. So you can access the FuturU platform. You can undertake all of our over 100 courses. They're all CPD certified and accredited. We're a Skills for Care endorsed training provider, and you can access all of that content for free. So that is our mission, and you can get your certificate. You can download your certificate. And if you are somebody that is looking to come and work in the UK, then undertaking the training that might be useful for you in your role, I think would be a really good demonstration to an employer about how keen you are and what a good active learner you are. So we offer a range of courses. We've got everything from bowel management to epilepsy and seizure management to dementia and advanced dementia, and things like moving and handling and phlebotomy and so on, a whole range of different content that will be of interest to you. Also, as an organization, we're recognized and approved by Ofqual. So that's the body that approves organizations to deliver qualifications. And we are something called an endpoint assessment organization. So if you go through an apprenticeship in health and social care, then we will be an organisation that will do your assessment at the end of that process to make sure that you have met all of the criteria and demonstrate all of the understanding and skills and so on that you need to demonstrate. So that's a little bit about us as a company. Let's get straight in and talk about the care certificate. So first of all, what is the Level 2 Adult Social Care Certificate? It is, we think, an exciting new qualification that's been developed by Skills for Care who are the body responsible for standards within care, and the government's Department for Health and Social Care. And the reason that this has been brought about is to provide the start of a career structure within the care profession, and to give people a really good standard of initial training as they move into care. There has been a care certificate around for a while, which isn't a qualification. It's a non-regulated program of learning. And I'll explain a little bit about the differences between the old care certificate and the new care certificate as we go through. Also, what's important is that there is government funding available for this qualification. So if you're able to get on and work towards this qualification, the government have set aside over £53 million to support the initial group of learners going through this qualification. We're hoping that that funding will continue, but certainly there is a guaranteed amount of funding for a certain amount of learners between now and March next year. In the red box you can see on the slide there, just a little note that over half of the people in social care at the moment don't hold a level 2 qualification. So it is an opportunity, and we'll come on to this, an opportunity to be recognised for the skills and knowledge that you possess. So it's a really important and exciting opportunity, I think, to get qualified and recognised for the great work that you do. So that's a little bit about what the level 2 certificate is. In terms of what the benefits to you are of undertaking this qualification, so obviously enhancing your skills and knowledge. So there's loads of really interesting things to learn in this social care certificate, whether it's things like how to work with people with mental health issues or learning disabilities or autism, or the importance of privacy and dignity in care. But it's also exploring things like non-verbal communication and how do you support somebody sensitively who's at the end of their life and maintain their independence and dignity throughout. So there's some really great things that you can learn in this qualification. And as a result of that, you get the opportunity to boost your employability. So one of the key advantages of the care certificate being a qualification is that it becomes portable across different care employers. So if you move from one employer to another, you can take your qualification with you and they can be certain that you have met a consistent standard of training and education and will therefore accept that qualification. And when we come on to the differences compared to the old care certificate, because the old care certificate was not a regulated qualification, it meant that there was variation in the standards to which it was being delivered. And as a result of that, some employers were less likely to accept the care certificate from another employer than they would be if it was a regulated qualification. So boosting your employability is a real key advantage of this new qualification. And also unlocking further career and training opportunities. So this as an entry-level qualification, level 2, once you've got the level 2, it unlocks a whole range of different opportunities for you. So you could move on to a level 3, and a level 3 is where you start moving into a team leader role. You start being responsible for developing and supporting others. Or you could go down a specialist route and achieve higher level qualifications in things like dementia care or things like acquired brain injury, if you find yourself looking after people with very specialist needs. And all of this is about making a positive impact on the people that we care for. So if we're better at understanding non-verbal communication, if we're better at understanding what somebody's needs are at the end of their life, or what somebody with a mental health issue might require of you as their caregiver, then we're going to have a positive impact on that person's experience. And that's what all of this ultimately, and all of us on this call are here to do. So those are some of the benefits of undertaking this qualification for you, and just exploring a little bit about what this qualification covers. If you were familiar with the old care certificate, you'll be familiar with this structure. There's some very similar wording here, but the new qualification goes into more depth on some of these areas. So up in the top left, and I won't go through each of these in real detail, but it starts with understanding what your role as a carer is, and the importance of your ongoing development as a caregiver. And then we start looking at different aspects of care around infection prevention and control, the importance of working in a person-centered way, and other specific things, nutrition and hydration, and the importance of handling information sensitively, and so on. So between all of those units, they're called units, it covers a real wide range of the typical things that you will experience or have to deal with when you're caring for somebody. I'll talk a little bit more about that when I talk about our approach to delivering the learning, about how you often don't face all of these things in isolation. Actually, you go and talk to somebody and they've got nutrition and hydration needs. There is a privacy and dignity aspect to what you're doing. You have to communicate, you have to be aware of infection prevention and control. All of these things come in at the same time. So while it's useful to look at them as different units, actually our experience of giving care is that all of these things need to be considered as we're delivering that care. So let's think about eligibility. Now, there's a number of people on this call that are not based in the UK or not based in England, and I'm going to talk a bit about that now. So first of all, to be eligible for this qualification, you need to be 1, employed, 2, employed in an adult social care role, and 3, employed in that role in England. Now, if you're not based in England at the moment, then in order to undertake this qualification, you'll need to find an employer in England who is in adult social care in order to access the qualification. That's something currently that FuturU don't offer as a service, but there are organisations out there that you can engage with that will be able to support that transition. So you've got to be employed in an adult social care role in England. You've also got to be aged 19 and over, and either be new to care or have been in care for a while. So your experience, whether you're new to care or already in care, doesn't impact your eligibility. While it's primarily focused at people coming into care, it's also available for people who are 19 and above in an adult social care role in England, who are already working in care. One of the important things is that you need to make sure that you haven't got a level 2 or higher qualification already. The aim of this qualification is to support people who haven't got a level 2 yet, and give them access to qualification and a career pathway. So if you've already got a level 2 in social care, or you've got a level 3, then you won't be eligible for this. And also you need to make sure that your employer meets the criteria for funding. Now, your employer will most likely meet the criteria if they are in England and they are delivering adult social care. So if you're working with children, this qualification will not be appropriate for you. If you're working for the NHS, it won't be appropriate for you because that's healthcare as opposed to social care. So if you've got an employer that is looking after adults in a social care capacity in England, then it's likely that they will be able to access funding on your behalf. So what do you do if you don't meet the criteria? So, excuse me, if you're not in employment right now, so you're not working for an adult social care provider in England, or you're outside of England, then you can still access our training. So you can still go on to FuturU.ai, the website. You can still download the app, and you can still access all of the training for free, including all of the learning that is linked to the new care certificate qualification. So we are not withholding that from anybody, and we're not looking for any payment or anything like that. You can go and do that for free. The thing that you won't be able to do if you're not meeting the criteria is to access the assessment that you need in order to be awarded the qualification. So you can do all of the training, all of the learning, but you won't be able to get the assessment that gives you the certificate for the qualification. In order to do that, like in the previous slide, you need to be in employment in an adult social care role in England, be 19 or above, and not have a level 2 qualification already. So my invitation to you is to download our app. If you go to our website, then you can access all of the training that you want to access for free. So let's imagine that you've done the old care certificate. Does that mean that you need to do this one too? Not necessarily, but I've just got the postman coming and my dog's going to start barking. There we go. Excuse me for that. So just to explain a little bit about the differences between the old care certificate and the new care certificate. So I explained before, the old one is non-regulated and the new one is regulated. The difference between that is that the new one is a formal qualification, and the old one not a formal qualification.
Ofqual, yeah. Hey, that's nice.
Lovely. I appreciate the input, but if you can just put yourself on mute, that would be great. And post your questions in the chat. That would be really appreciated. So it being a formal qualification means that it will be nationally recognised, fully portable between employees. But it also means, because it's a formal qualification, that there are formal assessments and mandatory learning that you'll need to do. In the previous care certificate, you would be signed off by your employer, but in this new care certificate, you have to be signed off by qualified assessors, as opposed to an employer. It also means that there's funding available, and it also means that it forms part of a career pathway. So I mentioned that you might move from the level 2 to a level 3 or to more specialist qualifications. It gives you that opportunity. The previous care certificate took around 3 months to complete, and the new one is likely to take about 6 months. But again, it's down to you as to how much effort you want to put in, how much time you have available. We will make sure that it works around your schedule. And the new care certificate, we provide you with the mandatory learning. Your employer will also provide you with some training and some experience, and supervised work. And we will come into the workplace and we will assess you in the workplace. So that's a little bit about the difference between the old and the new. Now I want to just talk a little bit about FuturU's approach to learning. So this may be unfamiliar, this may be familiar, but we take something called a story-led approach to our learning. And what this means is that we immerse you in stories about people who receive care, and we ask you to make decisions about what you would do in that situation. Now, the reason why we build characters and we create stories is because we all love a story, and it's been proven that by engaging in stories, it helps us not only retain information that we pick up in that story and be more engaging, but also it allows us to relate it to real life situations. So the way we've constructed our learning is to put you in the position of a carer, meeting people who require care and asking you to make decisions about what you would do. As a result of that, these very relatable, typical scenarios, when you go out and deliver care, you will be much more familiar with what you're facing as a result of having experienced these scenario-based stories that we use for our learning. So this is a group shot of the characters that you can expect to meet in your learning when you undertake the adult care certificate with us. They're a bunch of very friendly characters and you'll get to know and love them through your journey. And I just want to introduce you specifically to 3 of them and let you know a little bit about who they are and what you'll be doing with them. So Ramin on the left there, he is your tutor and guide and will be your tutor and guide through the learning. And he'll introduce you to all of the people that you're expected to care for in the learning modules. And he'll be giving you advice on what to do and how to approach certain situations. So Ramin is going to be your key guide throughout all of your learning experiences. And then a couple of the characters that you'll meet. So you'll meet Kessia. Kessia is a young lady. She has spina bifida, and as a result, she is a wheelchair user. She often experiences incontinence, and she's also taking medication for epilepsies to manage her seizures. Now, Kessia is really outgoing. She loves meeting up with her friends. She loves going out. And your role when you meet Kessia is to support her on a visit out to meet her friends. I think they're going to the cinema. But while you're helping Kessia get ready, you notice that Kessia has been self-harming. Now, that's a really challenging situation for a carer about how to manage that situation. So Ramin and the learning that you'll undertake will help guide you through that scenario and that situation. And then Major Bingley. So Major Bingley is ex-army. He's an elderly gentleman and he lives with his sister. And Major Bingley is starting to show signs of dementia. So he's the primary carer for his sister, but because he's experiencing signs of dementia, you're going to have to navigate that situation by making sure that Major Bingley gets the care that he needs, but also making sure that he's able to, or somebody is able to care for his sister. So you've got a lot of very challenging situations, and there's lots more in the learning, and you'll be engaging with each of these characters along the way. So aside from that beautiful range of characters and so on, what are the main reasons that you might decide to choose FuturU as your provider of this care certificate qualification? So first of all, you can access this learning anytime, anywhere. You can download the app and you can use your tablet, you can use your computer, whatever is most convenient to you, and you can stop and start whenever you want to. So you are firmly in control of the way that you approach this qualification. As I mentioned, our approach to learning is very different to the normal type of learning that you'll experience in these sorts of things. They're full of lovely characters and full of lovely animations, and they're story-led, and as a result, you become more immersed and more engaged and perhaps emotionally connected to the activities that you're doing, rather than reading through slides and skipping onto the next slide and reading through slides or having to read loads of documents and so on. At FuturU, we are set up to support you every step of the way. So whether that is making sure you've got 24-hour access to support if you have any issues on the platform, to having regular check-ins with an assessor or a mentor who will make sure that you're brilliant. Seeing people on the train there, that's great. You'll have regular access to an assessor and mentor who will support you to make sure that you're getting the experience you need with your employer and for planning and organising your assessments to achieve the qualification. But also, when you join FuturU, it's not just the qualification that you receive, it will be opening yourselves up to a whole world of other learning and other opportunities. So this is our level 2 qualification. In time, we will be offering additional qualifications, but we also have over 100 courses online that you're able to access and complete at any time. And you can do that for free, and you can do that right now, should you wish to. So, thinking about how you might approach your employer. So let's assume that you're employed in an adult social care role in England, and you want to talk to your employer. If you go onto our website, you will see an article on there, which will give you a template to compose a letter or an email or a message to your employer, giving them all the justification to support you in achieving this qualification. So you can scan that QR code now if you can see it, or you can access this article later, and this recording will be made available to you. So you can scan the QR code there and access that information.
I've also just added a link to the article in the chat, so you can click on that and go right through to the article.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Alex. So where are we in terms of our readiness to deliver this qualification? So the qualification hasn't quite launched yet, but we have received approval from Skills for Care on how we're approaching this, particularly around the story-led, scenario-based training. We're going through the process at the moment of getting approval from Ofqual to make sure that we're upholding the standards appropriate to the qualification. And then it will be in about 6 weeks' time that we look forward to welcoming our first learners on the qualification. So we're very happy to maintain contact with you and make sure that you are the first in the queue in terms of the early adopters and getting onto this qualification first. But if you haven't already, make sure you go onto the FuturU website and download the app and start exploring the learning opportunities available to you. So that is everything that I wanted to cover. I will now open it up to questions, and you can either put your questions in the chat, and I'll come to you in a moment, Alex, to see if there's any. You can email us at support@futurU.ai, and we'll come back to you with anything, with any answers. And also keep an eye on the amazing blogs that we have on the website, because they're a really useful resource for either supporting you to engage your employers or general advice about wellness, inner wellness, about a whole range of topics that are useful for somebody in the care sector. So there we go. That's me done for the talky bit. Alex, are there any questions coming up in the chat?
Yes, there are indeed. So we've got a few questions, but everybody please do add any others that come to mind as they go into the chat. So we've got a question from Gabemi Ross. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Can the RQF level 2 be used as level 2 adult and social care certificate?
So we will have a policy for something called recognizing prior learning. So I can't comment specifically on specific qualifications, but when you apply to us to do the qualification, it will ask you what existing qualifications you've got or training that you've done, and our assessors will look at that and see whether that excuses you or kind of gives you a pass on elements of this qualification. So I can't comment on individual qualifications. All I can say is that there is a process for us to look at what you've done already and to see whether that means that you only have to do part of this qualification to achieve it. Okay.
Thank you. We also have a question from Kaneo. What does the level 1 adult care certificate comprise of? Is there a level 1 adult care certificate?
So there are level 1 social care qualifications. They tend to be qualifications that people will do at school. So they're not practical qualifications. They're kind of theoretical qualifications. To move into employment, generally an employer is looking for a level 2 qualification as the entry level standard. A level 1 would be a kind of introduction to for somebody not yet in employment. So it would be useful to demonstrate to an employer, if you've got a level 1, that you have got some of the underpinning knowledge, but it will be the level 2 qualification that will be the entry point for employment.
Thank you, Mark. A question from Umed. How is the where do you access the course? Is it online? So maybe just a little bit more information on kind of which bits are online, which bits are in the workplace.
So when you access the qualification, all of the learning that you do will be online. Of course, there'll be learning in the workplace that you do. You'll have to do some training and learning in the workplace that your employer will look after. But all of the learning for this is online and on the app. And once you've done the learning, you'll see on the app, it will then unlock contact with your assessor or mentor, and then your assessor mentor will guide you through the assessments that you need to undertake in order to achieve the qualification. So there will be a single place that you can access on your phone or on your computer that you can progress through the qualification. And all of that activity will be online, but of course you'll be learning and working at the same time.
Thank you, Mark. A question from iPhone. Can individuals sponsor themselves if they want to enroll in the course?
So an individual can sponsor themselves. However, there's a however here. If you're sponsoring yourself because you're not in employment, you really need to be working to demonstrate the skills and competence of this qualification. So what you need to demonstrate is work-based competency, which means that we'll be sending assessors into your workplace to observe you undertaking care and making sure that you're doing that to an appropriate standard. Now, that's really impossible to do if you're not in work. Now, it could be a voluntary role, and we could arrange with the organisation that you're volunteering for to come in and do those observations. And it could be that then you could pay for it yourself. But if you're looking to sponsor yourself because you're not in work, it will be impossible to complete the qualification.
Thank you. Another question from Phil. So you mentioned assessments. Will these be virtual only? And if not, what are the other assessments? And are assessors FuturU staff or their employers?
So there's great questions there. So there will be a range of different assessments. So there will be work-based observations, and initially, those work-based observations will be FuturU staff. If we do partner with an employer and ask the employer to undertake those assessments, then the employer will be trained by us to undertake those assessments. So while they're doing the assessment, they will be acting on our behalf as opposed to the employer. There will be another range of assessments. So there will be a professional discussion, which will be online, like Zoom, like this, where you'll be asked questions by an assessor to establish your understanding and comprehension of certain things. And then there will be reflective statements that you might contribute as well, or might submit as part of your qualification. So that will be, for example, say you've been looking after somebody with dementia, and you might write there saying, this is what I did, this is how I communicated differently, this was the outcome as a result of doing that, and you submit that as a reflective statement to show that you're thinking about how you're communicating and thinking about the impact that that's having on the care recipient. So it may be that you're writing reflective statements, and I'm not saying that they're essays or assignments. They're just like a diary entry. It may be that you're observed by your employer, but that would be kind of managed by us, or it could be that you're observed directly by a FuturU member of staff.
Thank you, Mark. We have a question from Lisa. Will the old Skills for Care certificate be phased out, or will this still be available for all employers to embed within their 12-week training induction program?
Good question. I don't think it's going to be phased out right away, because the old Skills for Care certificate, it relates to and is used in the NHS, so healthcare environments as well as social care. So at the moment, this qualification is just for social care, so it's not for people working in the NHS. So they'll still continue to use the old care certificate. I think some employers will continue to use the old care certificate, but I think gradually employers will move to the new one, and the new care certificate will become that onboarding and initial training journey for new staff.
Thank you, Mark. A question from Mercy. Can the Level 2 Adult Social Care Certificate be used in other health areas?
So it can be used in other adult social care environments. At the moment, it's not transportable for healthcare because it's specifically aimed at social care. But there is work going on to see what the NHS and healthcare providers want to do with their entry-level qualification. So I imagine in time it will be fully portable across a range of different health and social care environments. But at the moment, it's aimed just at adult social care. So transferable between like care homes, for example, but it wouldn't be transferable between a care home and a hospital.
Thank you. A question from Toby. Just to be absolutely sure, is this Level 2 Adult Social Care Certificate free, or does it need to be paid for?
So good question. It is being funded by the government. So it is free to the learner. It is free to the employer, because the employer gets funding to cover the cost of it. So it is free to employers and free to learners, providing you're eligible and able to draw down the funding, which, as I say, in most cases will be the case. Yeah. So it's free for the learner, free for the employer, but it's being paid for by the government. I hope that answers that question.
Thank you, Mark. For anybody who's particularly interested in this area, I definitely recommend having a look at our blog. We've got an FAQ for learners and for employers looking at enrolling their own teams in the care certificate. So you'll find lots of information around eligibility and funding there if you would like a little bit more information. Another question from Lisa. Lisa would like to know, can this qualification be part of an apprenticeship program, or is it still needing to be adult social care level 2 on its own?
Good question. At the moment, the old care certificate is generally part of social care and healthcare apprenticeships. And at the moment, it's just unknown. It will continue to be the old care certificate that will be an integral part of apprenticeships, but apprenticeships will no doubt change to include this level 2 care certificate qualification. So if you do an apprenticeship in adult social care at the moment, I think you do a level 2 adult social care diploma, and you do the care certificate. I can imagine in time those apprenticeships will come in line with this new care certificate, but it's still early days and it takes time for these things to kind of change. So so right at the moment, it's still old care certificate forming part of the apprenticeships, but I'm sure in a matter of months it will be new care certificate forming part of the apprenticeships.
Thank you. We've got a couple of questions around eligibility. So we've got a question from Gideon who'd like to know, if you've been in the UK less than a year, would you qualify for the funding for this course?
That's a good question, and I don't actually know the answer to that. So the funding, as it has been stated, is that you have to be employed in England, aged 19 and over, and not have a level 2 or above already. So on the basis of that, I would say as long as you meet that criteria, you're eligible. But yeah, perhaps that's something we can go away and find out for sure. So on the face of it, you would meet the criteria as long as you're working 19 or over and not have a level 2 already.
Thank you, Mark. We have a question from Olayinka, who has a visa that says it has no recourse to public fund. Would they still be able to apply?
That's a good question too, and I don't know the answer to that. I'm not very certain when it comes to visa rules and what that stipulation excludes them from or allows them to get. In theory, it's not them accessing the funding, it's their employer, but I just don't know the answer to that question, I'm afraid.
Thank you, Mark. Chidubem has a question around eligibility. They're based in Scotland and working as a relief support worker. So would the funding apply to them? So
in Scotland, you've got a different setup, much the same as Wales and Northern Ireland. So in Scotland, you would need to be doing an SVQ in order to comply with your registration with the SSSC, the Scottish Social Services Council. So there's a different funding arrangement up there, and you would need to contact either go on the SSSC website, so sssc.co.uk, I think it is, or speak to your employer up there about what funding is available for you to undertake an SVQ level 2. That's the equivalent up there.
Thank you, Mark. We've had a couple more questions around funding, more thinking about the employer side of things. So we had a question from Ting around the role that FuturU may play in assisting care organisations to secure fundings. And then we also had a question from Phil around whether employers would be paying upfront or at the end of the course with hopes of it being reimbursed at that point. I don't know if you've got any detail on that at the moment.
That's still being worked out, that detail, but our understanding is that the majority of the funding for employers is going to come at the end of the programme. So it may well be that the employer needs to pay something up front and then claim it back once you achieve the qualification. In terms of supporting employers to draw down that funding, yes, that will be part of our onboarding process for employers. Is to make sure that they're eligible and make sure that they're aware of how to draw that funding down.
Thank you, Mark. I'm just adding a link in the chat to the webinar that we have, an introductory webinar on the care certificate, but specifically for employers, which we have coming up next Thursday. So if you're very interested in the funding and the eligibility, and you are an employer or manager of a team and you're looking to enroll your team, then definitely register for that session. If you can't make it live, we'll send you a recording after, so you can access all of the information at that point. So another question from Chidabum in Scotland. They are asking, if they're in Scotland, what will be the relevance of FuturU courses for them after they're done doing them? Not my best.
Okay, yeah, good question. So all of our content is has been reviewed by experts in Scotland to make sure that they meet Scottish any particular Scottish regulation. So if you do our safeguarding course, for example, then it will be the equivalent of the Scottish adult protection course. Or if you do our safeguarding children and young people course, then it will also meet all the criteria for the Scottish child protection courses. Same with infection prevention and control, and wherever it is that Scotland have got specific differences, our courses will acknowledge that and will be appropriate for a Scottish audience, as they will also be for Northern Ireland as well and Wales. So so wherever you are, there will be, and it may be that in the course there's a little box to tick or press that will take you to a specific area that explains how things work in Scotland. But yeah, our content is applicable to the whole of the UK.
Awesome, thank you. I'm aware that we have gone a little bit over time, so I'm going to end possibly not with a question, more of a request. Please, can someone do a level 3 course with FuturU anytime soon? Do we have any ambitions for anything above and beyond the level 2?
We absolutely have that ambition. So yes, we hope that it won't be long before we're running another session like this and launching and explaining and introducing a level 3 qualification. So just bear with us, download the app, spend the next few months getting through all the training courses, and then hopefully there'll be a level 3 available for you to access then.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mark. So we are at time now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just add a link to our email address. So if you do have any further questions that you'd like to ask Mark and the team, if you just send them across to support@futurU.ai, we will pick them up as soon as we can. But thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. As Mark's mentioned before, make sure that you have downloaded the FuturU app so that you are the first to hear as things progress and we get closer to the launch of the Level 2 Adult Social Care Certificate. Thanks, Mark, for joining us and sharing all of your wisdom. And thank you so much to everybody for joining us today.